morning. Welcome to Viewpoint, your program of personalities, politicians, and perspectives. And we're going to have some perspectives right here about in Logan County here, and we certainly have a personality. This is Busby, as you might remember, or do you? We usually...
Sometimes yes, sometimes no.
That's what you have to know.
Yeah.
Chief, we always try to start this program with a kudo or two for some in the community. For instance, I've used the crossing guards, and just an example. Somebody's a little extra, and it's important. And I read in the paper this morning where the Oasis is taking over the Oktoberfest, which, by the way, is the first Saturday in October, and I'd urge you all to go out to the Oasis. But what brought the kudo to mind is down through the years, all of our churches have a lot of folks that step to the front and volunteer, and we all get a little longer in the tooth, and we get a little older, and the first thing you know, we've kind of volunteered out. And so, unfortunately, St. John's Church, which has done a tremendous job. And by the way, I want to just step aside a minute about that. Their youngsters have always honored the military boys that come Veterans Day, and I really appreciate that. But they don't have the bodies anymore to do this great Oktoberfest, which they did for years. So kudos to them for having done that for all the years. And now a special kudo to the Humane Society who's going to help the Oasis as they put on this Oktoberfest. So that's my speech for this morning.
Speaking of volunteers, I tell you, those people who volunteer at the Humane Society are dedicated. My word, they just, I don't know how big their group of volunteers are, but they just are working all the time to support that thing and do a magnificent job. Certainly keep their grounds up. I understand Mr. Wheat is the president of grounds out there.
Mr. Ash, is her speaking volume all right, or is my hearing aids going bad? So she's fine. Hearing aids going bad again. All right, let's get on to serious business here. You introduce our guest officially, will you?
Yeah, I would be right proud to do that. Paul Adams is now Chief Paul Adams of the Lincoln Police Department, and he's our brand new chief, so we're going to find out all about who Paul Adams is and what his hopes and plans are for the Lincoln Police. Now, Paul, were you from Lincoln originally, or tell us a little bit about your background?
Sure, love to. Well, first of all, I was actually born in Joliet, Illinois. That was kind of an interesting story there.
That's out of town.
Paul, why don't you pull
a little bit out of town?
Why don't you pull that microphone a little closer to you, sir?
Bit closer, right.
Thank you very much.
There we go. Is that better? Yeah. All right. So there was actually, back in 1973, there was a big riot, prison riot up in Stateville. And about, my father was a correctional guard up there, and he was actually taken hostage and dangled over the third floor of the rotunda there at Stateville.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Oh, gracious.
And interestingly enough, 9 months later, I popped out when everything was done and over with. So apparently Mom was happy to see Dad come home.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And then we moved here to Lincoln when I was about 4 years of age. So he got transferred down here to Logan Correctional Center. And so I essentially grew up here in Lincoln, went to Washington Monroe, went to Central.
This is your home now.
Yeah, exactly. And so I went to LCHS, and then I left for a little bit, going to Southern Illinois University, where I got my bachelor's in administration of justice, and I have an associate's in law enforcement, and then I have a minor in computer information processing. So,
well, that's important in this day and age. I'm sure you spend plenty of time hunkered over your computer.
Oh, there's a lot of time I spend at the computer.
Yeah,
I do a lot of the work for the city, for the computers, their websites, etc. And
kind of like their IT guy.
Kind of like the IT guy / chief of police. Yep.
Oh boy! Well, in today's economy, we have to get all we can out of an employee, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's for sure.
It's funny you mentioned Stateville, and way back, things were a lot different. My father was probably in his 30s, a young man, and the guy who was the warden at that time had come from Logan County, and I wish I could come up with a name right now, but how soon do I have to know?
How soon do you have to know?
But in any event, 3 or 4 local fellows, including my father, were given a tour, you couldn't do that today, I'm certain.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
But and boy, I remember in later years when he's telling me about it, how that got his attention in a hurry. And that had to be pretty grim back in the 30s.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sure it was.
Sure. Yeah.
Times have changed.
Yep,
some is good and some is not so good.
Yeah.
What do you think the biggest problem is that you face in this community?
Well, you know what? Our guys deal with a lot of mental health issues, and
is that a fact?
It is. It is. You know, and a lot of those mental health issues may be, just plain mental health, and some of them are brought on by drugs or alcohol, etc. Somebody has too many drinks, etc., and then next thing you know, they're a certain portion of the brain shuts down, and then they can't say no for some reason. So we deal with a lot of that. So,
well, ask a question about that, Chief. Dealing with somebody who has a mental problem, in no matter what degree, that requires a lot of finesse. You just don't send Joe Smith out there to go take care of this problem. There's a lot of background, a lot of training that has to take place in that.
Yeah, there is. We're not mental health professionals at all, and what we usually do is try to at least get him to the hospital if it's a mental health issue, and let the professionals take care of him from there on out. So, but there's there's a lot of negotiation, there's a lot of talking, and a lot of our guys are trained for those type of situations, but sometimes it only goes so far. So,
in corrections, they're talking about the fact that their overcrowding wouldn't be quite as desperate if they didn't have so many people who were there because of a mental health issue. So now you're on the ground floor of that very problem, so you can probably see where they're coming from.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. The problem is we have a lot of problems that go to the hospital. It's a mental health issue, but they don't have the beds for it, or they don't have the issues for it. So they send them back to us, and we essentially have to lock them up for some type of charge, if even a disorderly conduct charge. So.
Yeah, and what good does that do?
For the mental health, nothing.
Yeah.
It's just a
so
way
to.
So
just wait until they get over their snit and send them home, or?
Well, we try.
And wait for the next one to happen.
Exactly. So we deal with the same people over and over again. So.
Sure.
Chief, how many do you have on your staff now?
We got 26 guys. Well, 25 guys. We're in the process of hiring and filling that last position, which is 26.
That a full complement according to the table of organization, or are you short 2 or 3 or 4?
Well, given if you compare us to other agencies, we're a little bit low. Yeah. When I first started back in '97, we had 29 guys. So now we went down to 24, and we finally got back up to 26 now. So. And
of course, the way you can operate your office, you have a budget, and the budget's may not come up to what you need to do the job the way you'd like to do it.
Exactly. We've had to eliminate some programs over the years just to try to make it work. We were down to, I was in investigations before I became deputy chief, and I was in there for 10 years, and about 3 of those years I did it by myself because we just didn't have the people to put in investigations at the time. So just because of the lack of manpower, etc. So, we did what we could, and I worked my butt off for a few years, and but now we got the people back. We got a guy back in our drug task force with the Illinois State Police, and he's doing a really good job with the heroin, etc. And problem here in Lincoln. So
address that a little more fully. That heroin problem. One of my grandkids, when she was at the high school, I asked her what she saw of that. And she said it seems that they're selling it very inexpensively to the kids, and then when they get in the habit of thinking that's pretty nice, then they up the price on them, and that it was a very popular thing at the high school.
Well,
is that what you see? We're
not seeing a big problem there at the high school necessarily. It's on the street in and of itself. the problem is you have a lot of people that were addicted to prescription medications, but when they changed the rules and the laws and on how and when you can get prescription medications through the doctor's offices, et cetera, it made it harder for people to get those prescription medications. So now, instead, they're turning to the street and finding heroin to essentially replace that fix inside of them. And heroin is a very addictive drug, just like you may have heard the opiates, etc. With can't remember the name of the drug off the top of my head, but the heroin problem has gotten worse because it's easier to get. It's cheap, like you were talking about, and
how do you define cheap though? Once you get on it?
Yeah, exactly. So these guys, they wake up in the morning and they got to get their fix, and they go out and they try to find it, and sometimes they take too much of it and they mix it with other drugs, which usually is some of the overdose which causes death, is they're mixing it with other drugs.
Do you have that drug on hand all the time that's supposed to neutralize
antidote or
the
whatever?
heroin?
Yeah, that's the brand name is Narcan, that what we're trying to get, and we don't have it yet, no.
Oh, you don't?
The only people that do have it now, I believe, are the paramedics on the ambulance, and we're trying to get it in the police cars, because we're usually there on scene first before any other emergency responders. So,
is it a pretty stable thing, and you could carry it in your car, and it wouldn't, I don't know, spoil?
Well, they do. There is some heat concerns with it, so I don't think we'll be able to carry it in the car. The officers will have to carry it in a pocket. So, but they will be able to carry it. And the nice thing about it is it's not an injection; it's a nasal inhalant. So it does. We don't have to inject anybody. And if you're not having a heroin overdose, it doesn't do anything to you. So it's perfectly safe to administer to.
Then why why are you not able to have it at this point then?
Well, we're trying to get approval through the state, and we have to get a doctor to approve us. They essentially have to prescribe it to us to allow us to administer it.
The word is bureaucracy, Judith K. That's the word.
Oh, I've heard that word.
Our guest this morning is Paul Adams, Chief of Police of our Lincoln City Police Department. We appreciate you taking your time to come up with this, Chief. 648-5510. Somebody might have some questions to ask of this gentleman. If you don't have any questions, just want to harangue him, you try that and we'll hang up on you. Seriously, we don't know much about our police department, and maybe that's just as well. They have to do their business the way they have to do their business. So do you think about that? And if you have a question, make it nice now, because he has his book, he'll better write you a ticket.
No.
The training that it takes for a young officer. Let's say Joe Billingsley comes off of the street and you hired him, he's passed the requisite test and so forth. Take us through where he goes from there.
Well, actually, we're in the process of hiring a new person straight off the street. He'll hopefully start September 16th, and so the first thing he'll have to do is go to one of the academies. We usually send him to Champaign, but currently Champaign's booked up. So the other place that we usually would send him to is the Illinois State Police Academy. So, and they have a local municipal training facility there that will train them up. And that's a 3-month program essentially. So they'll be down there for 3 months learning how to be a police officer, qualifying with the firearms, etc., and learning the basics of being a
Is there a cutoff? Excuse me for interrupting you, but is there, in the course of training, can you see that this gentleman or lady, as the case may be, isn't going to quite make this? Maybe they're not going to make a good officer. There's a cutoff. Even if they get that far, then you say, well, this isn't working out.
Yep, absolutely. We're always in contact with the academy through that entire process. So if there's any issues or anything comes up that we need to know about, they let us know. And if need be, we'll start from scratch, because we always want the best if we can. So
I assume that a college degree is required before they'd go to that training. Would that be the case?
No. The Illinois State Police requires a degree. We do not. The Lincoln Police Department, you can have a high school education to be a police officer. That's correct. Yeah.
Now, the state, in its infinite wisdom, has decided that we're going to legalize medical marijuana. And I guess they're building a farm out here. Haven't seen much activity lately out there, but anyway, Do you think that'll affect your job?
Oh, absolutely.
I thought maybe it
And
might.
define, if you will, please, Chief. Define. You said absolutely. In what ways do you think that will make an impact on your force?
I belong to the Central Illinois Law Enforcement Executives group. We meet down in Springfield once a month, and we've had discussions about this same topic. And there's always a rush to get something done, and the legislatures haven't fully thought this out in regards to DUIs. People driving under the influence of marijuana. So if you got somebody that has a marijuana card and they're driving, is there a limit? Like you have a BAC, you can drive up to a certain point.
BAC?
For your blood alcohol content for alcohol.
Okay.
So, but we don't have that. It's either you have it in your system or you don't have it in your system right now. So, and you can't drive at all with any THC in your system right now. So that hasn't really been essentially ferreted out.
There's a line that's not really defined.
Yeah, and they're talking about a certain measurement scale, but some states are saying no, that's too much. Some states are saying no. So they're trying to figure all this out still. It's still way up in the air, and it's stuff that we have to deal with to try to get an understanding for our officers and to put the policies and procedures into place to make sure we're doing it the right way.
Well, it's created employment. For instance, you may know, I had a son who was warden up at the Illinois River.
Okay.
And he's retired now after 30-some years. And his secondary job is he's going to be in charge of security for a marijuana distribution place up there in Fulton County.
Okay.
And so he's going to double dip, the rascal. Good for him.
Yeah.
But that creates a whole new avenue of possibilities, does it not?
Oh, it does, yeah. There's a lot of jobs that it's going to, and plus the tax revenue that the state will get from it, but...
I know, but we always approach things from that very angle, from how much money does it mean for me?
Oh, yeah.
And we've got the gambling going hot and heavy all over Illinois. Boy, the people are just lined up.
Yep.
How many lives has that ruined? Now we're going to have marijuana. That's another step.
Yeah.
Now, you see, it's just changed so much. God, when I was a kid in high school in the 30s, we didn't have we certainly wasn't aware of any of these problems. Most of us couldn't spell marijuana. But gambling, we were all aware of gambling over at the river, over at Havana. And we all knew about that. And I think we had quite a bit of it right here in Logan County, if you will. But those, the vices of that time, now has become so, and the money, of course, these folks down there in Mexico and so forth, and Costa Rica and all those countries where they get this stuff started and move it up the line. Now, do we have a line that you're aware of you have to watch for transportation of drugs, Chicago, St. Louis, and you're in, I presume, in concert with the state police and the drug enforcement people. All of you have the tips and so forth that you're watching constantly. Yeah,
we're always getting feedback from the state about possible drug loads that are going right up I-55 to Chicago coming from Mexico. So the problem is we don't have the jurisdiction to get out on Interstate 55.
No.
Yeah, that's the state police and the county sheriff's department couldn't get out.
Well, why even bother to notify you then? Are you supposed to go out there and stand by the highway and wave at them when they go by?
Maybe they'll come into the truck stop. Who knows? So, but back in I think it was 91 or something like that. They did get a truck that was full of money here in Lincoln. So it was a U-Haul truck that came inside. Lincoln had a headlight out, and they stopped it, and lo and behold, there was $1 million inside of that one. So
now, by the way, before we had to cut to a commercial, we have to honor folks up there, so we're going to do that. When you have a drug bust like that, and there's considerable money involved, ultimately, how much would that stay here in the city of Lincoln if it's a city bust?
Well, it depends on who's involved. The state's attorney's office automatically gets a portion of that, and we would get a portion of that. But if the state police is involved, and usually they are, they get a portion of it too. So then if the county sheriff's department, well, split it up. There's another third that goes out or whatever. However they deem to break it up. But yeah, it'll be all split up between the different.
So that's your finder's fee.
Essentially, yeah.
That's fair enough. Yeah. Well, it meets the state attorney. You can better be done right with that gentleman. He's a straight-laced guy, and he does. We're lucky to have him.
Yep, John's been working well with us. He's a stand-up guy, and we appreciate all his help and his support that he's given us. So.
Well, with Mr. Ash ready with his dials, we'll go ahead and cut to a commercial right now, and we'll come right back. And our guest this morning is Chief Paul Adams. Figure out a question you want to ask him. And we're right back live in the studios here, WPLC, almost said WPRC, WLCN.
That outfit died a long time ago.
All right. Just to prove that he's more than a pretty face, which we all agree he is, besides being the janitor and the production engineer and the station manager and everything else.
And cat keeper.
Mr. Ash has come up with a cogent question, so we'll let him ask that question right now, please. Go right ahead, Jim.
Yeah, I don't have a microphone.
Well, I didn't hear the question because they weren't working, but Judy can. Yes.
Yeah, but she can't remember anything. We all know that. No, he said, give me a hint.
It's about the
gun shootings.
The gun shooting.
Oh, gosh, yes, oofda. And now it just took place up north here. And they're still looking for those people. The schools are all closed. And I thought that their leader up there said something pretty pungent. He said, it's lives. It's not black lives or white lives or police lives or whomever. It's lives that we're talking about here. And it's just rampant. I don't know what's the matter. The whole country's gone crazy. We're trying to shoot people just because they wear a uniform. What's the matter with us?
Well, I think you said the whole thing right there. We have people who are so unstable, and it gets manifested almost daily, for goodness sakes.
How many people are going to want to go into law enforcement if
that has to be a tough job?
A target on them.
It is, and that's what.
Even right here in Lincoln-Logan County.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, and that's what my wife asked me this morning. Is it worth putting the badge on anymore?
Yeah, well, it's a legitimate question.
It's a fair question.
We do. The nice thing is there's the majority that still loves us, that supports us and needs us, and there is a small group out there that is trying to put a bad name on us for some reason, and it's our job to go out there and keep doing our job, protecting our citizens, and the question was asked is what are we doing here locally about this, and I just put out a memo the other day or yesterday to the guys about the information that's being spread on social media sites, etc., Facebook, Twitter, about killing police officers and not only police officers, but just the white race. And like you said, it's not about whites or cops or blacks. I look at it. We're all just a shade of brown. It just depends on what shade you are. We're not any different than each other. It just we're not actually white. I've never really seen too many white people.
No, we're kind of like pinkish.
So, and we all matter. All our lives matter.
That's right.
And they have it right up there at Fox Lake. That and unfortunately we do have to recognize this officer up there that spent 30 years of his career protecting his citizens up there. And I heard on the news this morning that he was asked to retire last month, and Chief talked him into staying.
Oh dear.
Yeah. And that's unfortunate. One of our officers actually belongs to Illinois Concerns of Police Survivors. It's Illinois Cops. They do a bicycle ride through town every year, and he's part of that group, and he's actually going to help with the funeral arrangements of this officer up there. So,
is that right?
Yep. So, doesn't matter where you are in the state, we care about you. So,
as your staff, Chief, as they go about their daily business and the normal routine arrest for whatever reason, encounter any antagonism?
We always get some type of negative grief because we're never invited to people's birthday parties. we're invited to people's problems. And,
well stated. Well stated. Well, so, it's the authority figure, and we have to have that. I mean, there's no way of getting around it. We just have to have that. So, and of course, here in a small little provincial community like ours, there's a more intimate relationship than in the bigger cities between this average Joe on the street or Josephine and the authorities. In our case here, perhaps most of us, or many, know the officers on the street, if not, and we just know who they are and so forth. And it should make a difference.
It does. Yeah, I believe it does. And the thing is our guys, we care about the little things too. And it goes back to the broken windows theory. If we have broken windows around town, or the little things that if you're going to ignore the little things, you're probably going to ignore some of the bigger things. And we don't do that here. We take every crime very seriously, and there's been incidents that I've investigated in the past where people from the Chicago area would come down here and cause a crime, and they would get arrested, and they would go to jail, and they would go to prison for very long. And the big question is why are you guys doing it down? They don't care about this up there. And it's like, well, I don't know why they don't, because we do here. So.
Oh, okay. We have a question for you, Chief.
Oh, yes.
Right You'll have to use that headphone there to hear it.
Chief, so you can hear the question. And 1 minute here, caller, and then we'll get the Chief get ready. Go right ahead, please.
Good morning. I want to say thank you to the Chief of Police and all the police officers who are disgraced and not understood. And every day your family has to be a good connection with God, and so does the police officers. And just pray you come home, because they are disrespected by the ones that are breaking the law. And this killing is driving me crazy. You're good. We need you. We love you, and we pray for you.
All right.
Very nice. Our Chief is smiling widely for that. Thank you very much, caller. That's a very nice compliment. Judy K, I didn't give you my headset. Did you have a question for the Chief, young lady? She's tied up now. Thank you. The young lady made a very nice compliment to the Chief and to our local police, which was a nice thing to get.
That is so heartening for me, because I think we have a real waning of what we used to refer to as respect. In the olden days, when we were kids, and then when we were raising kids, you always told them, and you were told, that the policeman is your friend. If you're ever lost, the policeman will find your mommy. He was the big hero. And of course, you dasn't disrespect the teacher or the minister or your elders.
Exactly.
There was a whole list of people. Actually, you were the only one that didn't deserve any respect as a kid,
Well, Judith, that speaks to the...
That's all changed.
Exactly, to the closing comments, which I will make in another 15 minutes or so. But that ties into exactly what this closing comment, which came from, by the way, from J. Edgar Hoover. In your career, Chief, is there any particular incident that stands out in your mind that can be shared with the public?
Well, I have a lot of incidents that I've investigated and been part of over the years, and it's unfortunate the amount of, like Judy said, is disrespect. But trying to think of something really interesting or fun. It's hard to do.
Did you ever birth a baby?
No, I didn't.
Aren't you grateful for that?
Yeah, I think I am. I do have 2 wonderful children myself, but
amen for that. Now, in the day-to-day activity, what would be the thing that gets most attention on a day-by-day basis here in Lincoln, Illinois?
Well, I run stats a lot just to check to see what's going on, and we have a lot of thefts for some reason. People stealing things not only from each other but from Walmart, etc. And
Well,
not sure
for
why.
starters, though, common sense would dictate that you lock your car.
Yeah.
You lock your house. You know, I mean, not everybody is a crook, but there are enough of them around so that you can get hit. I personally have been hit 5 times in this town.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I feel like the perennial
I was house sitting
victim.
for
Yeah, he's not working out at all.
Well, you gotta lock that door, though. You know.
I tell you, I'm locked up, man. But not only do we have people in our neighborhood spray painting things, which I just, if I ever catch the little Dickens, I'll
Really?
pound his head on the curb.
You'll be right.
Then I'll be him too. Yeah, right. Yeah, that's right. But it would only stand to reason that one should lock one's things up.
Absolutely.
But it's rampant the way I understand it. There was some news item just the other day about people getting into people's cars and taking the things out of there.
Oh, yeah, and you know, that's one thing we always tell people is, number one, lock your doors. If you make it hard for them, they're not going to do it. They don't want to make a lot of noise. They don't want to make a lot of commotion. So
Or expend a lot of energy.
Yeah, expend a lot of energy, exactly.
Is it a safe thing to ask? Maybe it's even politically incorrect to ask, but I'm going to do it anyway because you know how I think about political correctness. With the advent of the prisons here, it just goes without saying that suddenly we have different cultures in here that we did not have before. Has that made a difference? Does that make a difference in your police activities here in the community?
I don't think it necessarily makes a difference of how we do our job at all.
Does it make a difference in the job itself?
Not necessarily, I don't
Your
think,
stats
yeah.
aren't any different than they were before.
No, I think we've always had that issues, and it's just it kind of comes and goes with economic times. I mean, if the job rate is high and people don't have jobs, et cetera, then it tends to be a little bit higher for the crime rate. So. And sometimes it just depends on the moon.
Does your budget allow you to?
I had a friend who really believed that. If the moon was full, some bad thing was going to happen.
Does your budget allow you to staff adequately on the night services, particularly, say, what we used to call the midnight, 11 p.m. to 7 a.m.?
We used to be on a 9-hour shift, and it takes more staff.
9-hour shift.
9-hour
Is that
shifts.
right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
When I started, we were on an 8-hour shift, and we had a swing shift that was absolutely terrible. You had to work Monday afternoon, Tuesday afternoon, Wednesday morning. You get Thursday and Friday off. Then you had to come in Saturday and Sunday night. So
You got to figure out what genius thought of that.
How did your internal clock
It didn't.
cope? Not so much, huh?
It didn't. It was bad. So we went to the 9 hours to try to help alleviate that issue. Well, I think we tried an 8-hour rotational schedule for a while, but then we went to the 9-hour schedule. But the 9 hours takes a lot more staff, and there was a lot of times we were running 3 people all the time for Lincoln, which is a pretty big town. I mean, we got 14,000 people in the town. You got 3 guys trying to protect them all. So we went to the 12-hour shifts. So the 12-hour shifts actually gets us almost standard, as long as we don't have any empty slots. 5 guys all the time, so usually.
So what do they do? 312s or something?
They do. They'll do like Monday, Tuesday, and then they'll be off Wednesday and Thursday, and they'll work Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and then it's opposite the next week. So they'll be off Monday, Tuesday, work Wednesday, Thursday, and then have Friday, Saturday, Sunday off. So.
But you have pretty much your shift.
Yeah, exactly.
So that you're not Tuesday morning, Wednesday afternoon, Friday night.
Yeah, it's a 6 to 6, whatever.
Okay.
Well, as we all know here in Northern County, if you know what's going on at all in Northern County, how lucky we are to have the courthouse staff that we do and the major officers up there in the courthouse. We are really lucky here, all of them, each and every one.
Yep.
Which particular reference to our sheriff. And of course, I'm sure as a chief of police that you're meeting with our sheriff on a regular basis and you're exchanging information and working in cooperation with one another.
Yep, absolutely. So, yeah, me and Steve get along very well, and
He's an easy guy to get along with, I think.
Sometimes.
Until it comes to law enforcement.
We won't repeat that.
No, he's a good guy.
Yeah. It's important to have that kind of cooperation.
Yep.
Unfortunately, in some areas, I guess you have personalities get involved, and there's nothing. You don't see the cooperation that we enjoy here. Is it?
Sometimes, yeah. There's been strife over the years between different agency administrators, but I'm a pretty easygoing guy, so it's hard to get my feathers ruffled. So
Yeah.
So.
But it depends. It depends on the personalities of the people involved. Some people have a harder time getting along than other people. Like everybody loves Bill, and Bill can't stand me. Can you believe that?
I can name you a few. don't fill that category. How far ahead do you try to project, Chief, as far as you're laying out your budget and so forth is concerned? And of course, we've changed the city council complex now, and you go up to each city council meeting, I'm sure, as other department heads do.
That's correct. Yep. Yep. And it's kind of been up and down over the last few months, given the fact that we got Darren Scott Cooper as the mayor, and then fortunately he passed away, and now we're back in the process again of trying to get another mayor appointed from the council. So, but I think we have a good group of council members, and whoever they choose,
all dedicated.
Yep, we'll work with whoever takes the lead there. So,
staffing vacancies. Do you have a pool down here at the bottom from which you can draw to select somebody to go to the academy and see if it'll work out?
Yeah, what happens is the Police and Fire Commission, there's 3 individuals on the Police and Fire Commission that's appointed by the mayor usually.
And where do they dovetail with you?
Well, they really don't. They're just their own little separate agency, and then or committee essentially, and they're the ones that actually establish our lists. So, I'll sit in. They'll have a monthly meeting. The fire chief and I'll go to the meetings and explain what our issues are. If we have any promotions, they're the ones that put the promotional list together, and they're the ones, instead of having us do it by state law, we're required to have a police and fire commission. So,
but they used to be responsible for regulating the conduct of the police and firemen and the discipline, and that's not the case anymore. Is that right?
No, that is the case. Yeah, if there's I can give up a suspension up to so many days, but anything past that days, then it has to go in front of the Police and Fire Commission for them to essentially say that that's what they want to do. Or if I want to terminate anybody, I have to go in front of the Police and Fire Commission and have that done. So
I should think that would be helpful to you, because even if you let Joe Smith go, you've still got all these other people there that you have to deal with all the time.
That's
so I should think that they're relieving you of that would be helpful.
Yep, it is. So, and it's they have a process set up on if let's say that the Police and Fire Commission do terminate somebody, there's an arbitration process that's already in place. Everything's already in place for essentially an appeal process for the officer if they were fired or disciplined too long. So,
are you a union?
I am not anymore.
No.
But the police officers themselves are.
They are.
Yeah. They are. They belong to the Fraternal Order of Police. So.
Do you have your own review board within your staff, sir? If somebody says Officer such and such accosted me or something for whatever reason, do you have your own little review board?
Yeah, absolutely. Anytime that somebody has a complaint or any issue, they can always bring it to the police department. There's a form we have you fill out, and that's actually mandated by state law too, that you have to have an affidavit signed by the person that's complaining. And then once that's completed, then we do an investigation. We have our detectives look into it, and if it has to do with any type of law violation, then we'll have an outside agency come in and do the investigation rather than us doing the internal investigation. And then, like the state police will usually handle those investigations for us. They'll come in, they'll do the interview, they'll send it straight to the state's attorney's office without us being involved in that situation. So, but if it's just my officer maybe talked so wrong or then it'll go through my process. So, and then we'll do an internal discipline process if need be. So
everybody in the world, governmentally speaking, is broke. The U.S., the state of Illinois, and the city's not too plush either. So, how in the world do you deal with shrinking resources?
You got to prioritize.
Yeah.
At some point in time, you can't. There's some things you just simply cannot do without.
Exactly. So, and that's the thing is, there's a lot of cases that we'll get sometimes that, can we put the resources into this? Could we have, like, there's a check case right now that we're trying to handle. Our detectives are trying to handle with Springfield Police Department, but the suspects are out of Iowa, Chicago, etc. We've been trying to get the FBI involved with it, but it doesn't meet their threshold to get involved with it. We tried to get the Secret Service involved with it, and it doesn't meet their threshold to really get involved with it, especially with all what's happening out in D.C. with the election process beginning and everything. So, they don't want to get involved with it. So it's like, how do we justify our officers trying to go out to Ohio to do the interviews, etc.?
Oh yeah.
And we can't. We don't have the budget for that. So
you're just kind of like the little fella standing in the desert yelling, "Somebody, anybody, help me!"
Exactly. And we get that all the time. There's a lot of cases like computer crime investigations that deal with overseas, and it's like, all we can do is tell them, go to this website and lodge a complaint with the FTC or the Internet Crimes Computer organizations that's out there, and maybe hopefully they'll investigate it if they get enough people that are victims, and it's tough for us because we want to help, we want to be there for our citizens, but we can't fly to another country to investigate those type of crimes. So
no, well, you don't have the money for that.
No, not at all.
Chief Paul Adams,
I can barely take care of my cars.
Chief, as we close, and again, Judy and I thank you very much for taking your time. You're a busy guy.
Well, thanks for having me.
But you're a nice man.
As we close, do you have any comments you'd like to make, sir?
Well, I was told by my daughter, Emma Earlene Louise Adams, that I needed to mention her and that I needed to say something good about her. And so, she is a wonderful daughter, and she's very intelligent. So there you go, Emma. There's your shout out for that.
There you go.
And of course, it's
have a good day, Emma.
And he just passed me $5 to say
there you go, exactly. And then, of course, it's my father-in-law's birthday, Gary Tibbs. So happy birthday to Gary.
Happy birthday to him.
That's fair enough. Yeah, thank you. Well, we always try to close Viewpoint with a comment or a quote that's germane to the subject of the day. And you alluded to it earlier, Judith Kay. And way back, a long time ago, J. Edgar Hoover. Some people might not even remember who he was. He was the chief of the Federal Bureau of Investigation eons ago. And he said, no amount of law enforcement can solve a problem that goes back to the family. And that's about as basic as it gets, folks. Remember our chief, remember our boys that are out there. They're wearing the dark blue or black, you may say. Pay them your respects. Thank you very much.
Thank you.